there's a few things that I need to say throughout the course of making this production. So we're going to be here for a little while. Therefore, I advise you negroes to listen to me very carefully. And once again, and as usual in typical formation, let me start this production off by encouraging those of you who appreciate the content that is made on the channel to go ahead and get my likes up, give it a big thumbs up, furthermore share the productions. And if you're not already subscribed, double check to make sure that you are, and if so, click the notification bell and click all so that way you are notified each and every time I upload a production. I'm going to start emphasizing on this more so now based off of the fact that, and I've told y'all this over a year ago, that YouTube has shadow banned this channel. I got to 21,000 subscribers a little over a year ago, and YouTube out of nowhere removed more than 1,000 subs. Usually there's a certain percentage of growth that takes place each year within the channel. That has not happened, and the channel has remained stagnant for more than a year now. So therefore YouTube has shadow banned this channel. Furthermore, for those who truly appreciate the content and the productions, or no, for those who are true supporters of the productions made on this channel, then you can feel free to support the content by leaving a donation via PayPal, Cash App, or both, whichever one you feel fit. And last but not least, I would like to thank everyone, each and every last one of you, who had left some sort of donation in support of the productions made on this channel. Now, with that being stated, let me start off by saying this much. I'm going to say some things that are non-favorable in this production. And it's probably going to be within this one and also the next production, where I'm probably going to get under the skin of a lot of you black men. I plan on doing a two-part video series on this. But then again, anybody who knows of my content knows that I'm not on YouTube for a popularity contest. I'm not on YouTube looking to gain favor with anybody. I'm not on YouTube looking to be liked. I can care less who I offend. Because at the end of the day, I'm not here to tell you what it is that you want to hear. I'm here to tell you what you need to know. Just that simple. I'm here to make you think. So before I get started with the subject matter, let me start off by making my analogy. And many of you who have been watching me for years know that I love to use railroad analogies. We're going to take one railroad, I believe it's the only railroad I've ever made an analogy with, and that's Metro-North Railroad. And what we are going to do is we're going to only reference one line. We know they run three major lines, the New Haven, the Harlem line, and the Hudson line. We are only going to reference the Hudson line. If you know anything about Metro-North Railroad, Metro-North runs third rail electrified territory all the way from Grand Central Terminal all the way up into Croton Harmon. Past or anything north of Croton Harmon, you converge to two-track territory, and that is strictly diesel territory. Metro-North runs a fleet of trains. You have three that are electrified MU sets, consisting of the M3s, the M7s, and the M8s. The M8s run on the Connecticut line, so for the sake of the purpose of making this production, we are going to exclude that out of this production. But those are the three electrified sets. They also run a diesel passenger set. They have two locomotives that they use. One, which is the main powerhouse, which is a P32 Genesis AC locomotive, which has third rail pickup shoes to operate within electrified territory. And they only use third rail electricity when they're entering Grand Central Terminal. This consists of 7 coaches, including a cab car, or in certain cases, 2 cab cars. They also run a smaller locomotive, I believe it's a BL-20. And this, typically from what I've seen, only operates with only 3 cars in passenger service. I believe the head-end power is not enough to supply the electricity to 7 coaches, so they only run with 3 coaches, even though the locomotive can pull more than 3 coaches. The P-32, the diesel passenger fleet, is what you will see that will depart from Grand Central Terminal, and it will typically go well beyond Croton Harmon and go all the way up until Poughkeepsie. That is the final termination point for Metro North Railroad. Anything north of Poughkeepsie, I believe, is Amtrak territory, which Amtrak also runs along the Hudson Line on Metro North territory. But Amtrak goes all the way up into Albany, and in certain cases will go all the way into Canada. Now, Metro North and Amtrak have diesel locomotives that are equipped with third rail pickup shoes, meaning that they have the capabilities to running inside of tunnels. These locomotives can run anywhere. They are not limited to where they can go, and they can run on non-electrified territory. They have the capabilities and they have the capacity to be able to operate along those means. Metro North's MU set, whether it be the M3s, M7s, hell, even the M8s, cannot operate outside of third rail electrified territory or overhead catenary. So when they run their way all the way up to Croton Harmon with an MU set, typically there's going to be 2 options. Either number 1, you're going to change ends and start proceeding southbound and make your trip or your tour back down south to Grand Central Terminal, or they are going to put that MU set and store it in the yard somewhere. Those are the 2 options. If you are running with a P-32 Consus, you're going to continue to proceed north. And anybody who's ever taken that trip all the way up to Poughkeepsie, you know once you hit Croton Harmon, you still got ways to go before you even get to Poughkeepsie. I don't even think that's half of the line. And you know that the stations are much further apart than they would when you're running with the third rail electrified territory. Now, third rail electrified territory was what I would classify as a certain safe haven. And I'm making this analogy to make a comparison when it comes down to a certain group of individuals and how I would classify them as. The MU set does not go beyond third rail electrified territory. Why? Because it does not have the capabilities to do so. It's not qualified. There's nothing that can propel this train set, so therefore it has to terminate at Croton Harmon. Why? Because it doesn't consist of a diesel passenger locomotive. The diesel passenger fleet continues to not only operate in electrified territory, but also in third rail or in diesel territory, because it has the means to do so. Why do I say this? Let's put a pin in that for a second. We now know about the passing of one Kevin Samuels. And with that being stated, I'm not going to sit up here and trash the man's name. But with that being said, also, I'm not going to depict him as if he was some sort of saint, as if he was some sort of godfather, which is something that I'm seeing a lot of you black men do. And it's pathetic that a lot of you negroes are looking to be led by some YouTube daddy. And this furthermore explains why the black community is in the condition in which it is in. Because what Kevin Samuels gave you was merely entertainment and a means of being able to live vicariously through him. Now I know I'm going to get some butthurt, moist, effeminate negroes showing up to my comment thread, telling me, you know what you're talking about. Getting all pissed off as hell. And this is one thing, I have never seen this shit in my life. I have had back and forth beefs with black men here online, and I didn't see them coming at me with the vitriol that I see you negroes showing up to my comment thread with the moment I say something non-favorable about Kevin Samuels. But now let's go ahead and talk about his passing. And this happened, I believe it was May 5th on a Thursday Well, I found out about it late Thursday evening on May 5th. And according to what people were saying, that he died of a heart attack. Now, I've watched some of his live streams here and there, not the whole thing, but the short, brief 15-minute clips that he would showcase or whatever. I would sit down and watch him every now and again if I felt the need, if the title interested me. And a few times I've noticed him drinking Red Bull. And from what I know about Red Bull, people tell me that that stuff is not good for your heart. Be careful drinking it. So I don't know whether this actually had something to do with why Kevin Samuels caught that heart attack. But the next thing I started to wonder is, well, Kevin Samuels reached such a level of success in a short period of time. And there's usually a typical pattern when it comes down to black men who become so successful, and why the YouTube algorithms would boost his numbers up the way they did. He had over 1 million subs, millions upon millions of views. He built a nice little audience for himself, but YouTube had selected him to put him out there. Now, whenever they select you, there's a reason why they're doing this, but we also know whenever black men reach a pinnacle of success and they accelerate and soar. And Kevin Samuels, I mean, let me just make this perfectly clear. I've been on YouTube for over a decade now. I had never heard of Kevin Samuels up until August of 2020. And the only reason that I found out about him was because David Carroll sent me one of his live stream video clips. And this was the live stream where Crystal and Karazin had called in. Other than that, I've been on YouTube for quite some time. I had never seen or heard of a Kevin Samuels up until August of 2020. And the success that he achieved, that I've seen within 2 years, just 24 months, was outstanding. Now, he was using the same talking points that black men have been saying in this space for years now. What was different from him compared to any other black man? So when I sit and think about the level of success, and you understand there's a typical pattern when it comes down to black men who reach a height of success beyond anybody else, that typically is going to come with a hard crash. The fall is going to be a lot harder than how fast you climax to your level of success. So I stopped to think, was this a setup? Was this a setup? Then come to find out, allegedly what people are saying, that there was a woman, but some of y'all are saying that this was a prostitute or an escort that was in his apartment building with him. Or in his apartment as this happened. He collapsed on her as he caught the heart attack. Now, what I found that was strange about all this was that, from what I know, is that this woman is not being investigated. And I always tell y'all about pattern recognition. This woman is not being investigated, was able to walk away scot-free, and you would figure as many females hated Kevin Samuels. And the way you know this is look at how many of them have gotten online to espouse how much they disapprove of him, how they can't stand him, rejoicing over his death. So if we know that this is a pattern, that you have a large segment of females who literally can't stand this man, then how is it that when a female is in his apartment with him as he collapsed and died of this heart attack, how is she not being investigated, is what I'm trying to figure out. Furthermore, we all know just a few weeks prior to this even happening that there was a shooting that had taken place over here in New York City on a subway train. A black man who had an account on YouTube and also an account on the FS Avenger website. And based off of his actions, Brian Solange put up on his community tab that he was under investigation by the FBI. A negro that decided to go ahead and shoot up a random subway car. I believe he fired off more than 30 shots. 20 plus people were struck. No one was killed. Now, Brian Solange was being investigated, and I believe this went on for a couple of weeks now. It might still be under investigation. I don't know. Based off of this man's actions, all for the sole purpose of him being on a website that Brian Solange runs. Now, mind you, the same dude also has an account on YouTube. I would like to know who on YouTube is being investigated by this. Who runs the YouTube website? Who on Google or who from Google is being investigated by this? Has to comply with the FBI. Other than it's just simply turn over the man's account information and say, okay, here's his account information. I got nothing to do with that. But what I find strange is that Brian Solange doesn't know this man, never spoke with this man, doesn't have any contact with this man. It was being investigated for weeks, and possibly still to this day. But in a situation where you have a female that was in the same apartment, in Kevin Samuels' apartment, he fell on her as he was collapsing. Died as she was there. How is it then that when you have a woman that's in direct proximity in this man's personal space and settings, knows the man, had some kind of sexual relationship with the man, how is it that she now is not under investigation, but you are investigating a man who has nothing to do with this guy who went ahead and shot up a New York City subway train, only other than the sole fact that he ran a website that this clown had an account on? I need you to make sense out of that. So I still stop to wonder, was Kevin Samuels set up? And then I stopped to think about who Kevin Samuels was. And I say, maybe I'm wrong on this. Maybe I'm reaching. But before I even go into that, let me say this. But this is actually, this is going to correspond into what I'm about to say right now. Because I told you, when it comes down to electrified third rail territory, that's what I would classify as a safe haven, a safe zone. That electrified MU consist, whether it be a consistent set of M3s or M7s, that represents a certain segment of black men. Black people, to be honest. Meaning that they are only willing to operate within a certain confines. That diesel passenger consist that's equipped with a P32 Genesis AC at the head end, heading northbound. That represents another segment of black people who are on YouTube, who are not afraid to operate outside of the safe zone. And then when I think about a Kevin Samuels, and I think about him drinking Red Bull, Obsidian is somebody who references Kevin Samuels and speaks very highly of Kevin Samuels. And I remember when Obsidian gave the eulogy for David Carroll back late last year. Somebody had questioned Obsidian and asked, why do you have a mask on in your images? And one of the things that Obsidian stated is that, well, this is the problem with a lot of you black men. You're not taking COVID seriously. I'm wearing a mask to keep myself safe. I'm in a room with somebody else. Well, if that's the case, you know what? Fine, I'm not going to argue with that. But Obsidian even went furthermore to state that I'm vaccinated, and I encourage black men to go out here and get vaccinated. And that right there summed up and solidified everything that I already know about Obsidian and men who think like him. Obsidian is what you would classify as a safe haven Negro. He is a Negro. If I'm going to make that railroad analogy, he is an MU set. He could only operate with third rail pickup shoes. He does not have the capabilities, nor is he qualified to operate northbound of Croton Harmon. He can't go any further. He's stuck. He's relegated to where he's at. And what I mean by that is based off of the knowledge that he's willing to put out here, what he's willing to tell you. That's what I mean. And how do I know this? Is when you listen to a black man sit up here and encourage black men to go out here and get vaccinated. Now, those of you who have been watching my content and have seen my productions last year, then I posted now on what I was doing on these subjects. I set them to private. But y'all already know where I stand when it comes down to these vaccines. So I'm not going to go ahead and say it, but what I will say is this. Obsidian is a man who always talks about bringing sources, doing research. And listen, I agree with that. I don't have a problem with that. But when I listen to Obsidian sit up here and contradict himself by, on one hand, talking about do research, citing books. And if you're going to do research, you got to be consistent when it comes down to everything, especially when you have a large platform and a loud microphone and you're encouraging black men to go ahead and take a certain set of action. Because we know that the mainstream media has been pushing, and they initially wanted black people to get these vaccines above all else. Before anybody else, we were the first group they wanted to give this shit to. They'll give us nothing else for free now. I want you to think about that. Nothing of tangible substance. Nothing that actually benefits our community. But we will give you free vaccinations. I want you to think about that. And when Obsidian sits up here and encourages black men in record number to go out here and get vaccinated, it only confirms for me that number one, you are a safe haven Negro. And number two, you had not done your research when it comes down to this vaccination. Now, I've done extensive research, information that I have stored in my archives. Furthermore, I have access and direct contacts to people who are personal vaccinators. I have been in close proximity with these people. I've had debates with many of these people, many who disagreed with me at one point, now to turn around and say, guess what, brother, you're not crazy. Because now I'm starting to see what you see. I can pick up the phone and contact vaccinators anytime I feel fit. And if I can't contact them directly, I can gain access to people who can reach them for me. I've been in many places in the past couple of years and I've seen many different things. I don't talk about it all. But seeing what I've seen and knowing what I know when it comes down to these vaccinations lets me know that when I hear Obsidian saying to black men in record number, when we see that this is a mainstream media talking point, and whenever the mainstream media is running around trying to encourage black people to do something in record number, that's something that you most likely need to steer clear from. And yet you have a black man who's going to sit up here and encourage you to do, not say, hey, do some research and find out if this is a good option for you, see what you, no, none of the above, just go ahead and get vaccinated. That right there lets me know that Obsidian had done no research. And it also leads me to tell you, a lot of you brothers, y'all better be careful on who you're getting your information from. Because a lot of these people that y'all look up to, that y'all think are so bright, so wise, so intelligent, are leading you down a goddamn ditch. That's just the honest fact. So then it brings me back to Kevin Samuels. Because Obsidian, as well as Kevin Samuels, are what I both would classify. These are safe haven Negroes. So it would not surprise me that Kevin Samuels get this vaccination. And if so, you can fill in the blanks. But now he's gone now. So there's a number of different things that are going through my mind as far as what could have happened to him. And I think maybe through the powers that be that put him up there to be successful as he was in a short period of time that he managed to make it. Whether the very same ones that pulled the plug on him, I don't know. Then I start to say, no, that can't be. Why? Because Kevin Samuels was not a threat to the establishment. Kevin Samuels was not trying to build anyone but himself. And I know I'm going to get some of you soft, milk biscuit, effeminized Negroes showing up to my comment thread. Oh, you know what you're talking about. You better not talk about my day like that. You better not do that there. He was building. He was trying to get black people to unite. Now, get the fuck out of here with that stupid shit. He wasn't. Kevin Samuels was not. Many of y'all are running around saying he was trying to build a black community. He was not. He was in direct When you have a group of men who literally mock their community by referring to it as the communitar, and I'm talking about you Manosphere Negroes. This is the group of men that I'm talking about. And when you have them speak so highly of you, so favorably of you, you really got to start to question who and what you're dealing with. You really got to start to question what their motives are. Because the one thing you will not find these Negroes reference are black people, whether it be men and women, on YouTube who speak some real shit. They don't reference me. They don't reference Jason Black, aka the Black Authority. They don't reference Sergeant Willie Pete. They don't reference Professor Black Truth. They don't reference a host of, and I'll give you what's another one? Queen Amadar Shakur. That's a black woman. Puts out informative information. They reference none of these people. But when you look at who they reference, and let me tell you something right now, when it comes down to a Kevin Samuels, usually within the first 5 minutes, or if not the first 5 minutes, typically within the first full production or live stream or video that they do, I got a thorough understanding of who I'm dealing with. And I knew that right away about Kevin Samuels, and then he confirmed it for me. And this was back in 2020, and I told y'all the reason why I don't fuck with Kevin Samuels, because I sat by and listened to him say in a live stream, why should we as older black men do anything for the younger generation of black men? Y'all don't respect us. Why should we do anything for you? That's exactly that's his modus operandi. That's the wavelength that he operates on, or that he operated on. So when I listen to negroes running around talking, he was trying to build a black community. He wasn't trying to build anything. He was furthermore trying to re-secure his brand. Get more notification to his brand. That's what he was doing. Now he masked it under the guise of building a black community, because at some point he started getting called out for his bullshit. And since you Manosphere negroes accept the bare minimum, since the bar of standards has been set so low when it comes down to you negroes that an ant can scratch his back on it. He knows he doesn't have to actually produce tangibles for you. He doesn't have to actually give you informative information that can actually change your damn life. He don't have to do that. All he has to do is come out here and say a couple of words, I'm trying to build a black community, and you stupid ass negroes will go out here and y'all will believe that bullshit. Because you require absolutely nothing. Look at who the Manosphere idolizes. Can it explain why you negroes will sit up here and y'all will put up, Robert F. Smith on a pedestal? Look at who the Manosphere looks up to. And once you see who they idolize, who they put on pedestals, who they talk about in reference to such high regard, that's going to let you know all you really need to know when it comes down to this goddamn Manosphere. Kevin Samuels was about building his own brand. And he knew in order to keep the support of you negroes, what they would do is pretty much give you hush money. What was the hush money for Kevin Samuels? To say, I'm trying to build black society. Despite the fact that years ago he said, why should we have to do any goddamn thing for the youth of younger black men? If you're gonna build a black society, then it has to start with them. You can't do nothing with these older niggas. And here's the problem. I've come across too many older niggas like a Kevin Samuels in my lifetime, and I don't like people like that. They're jealous heart of the younger dudes. They don't want to see them succeed. They're the first ones trying to sabotage you. I've come across this far too often. This is why these older black men are not respected. They don't deserve respect. They built nothing. And when you really think about how far this rabbit hole really goes, it really gets disgusting. When I think about how cowardly some of you negroes really are. How you negroes lack territorial instinct. How you negroes don't have the means of passing down generational wealth to see a predecessor who looks just like you take over the reins, because one day you ain't gonna be able to do it. And since a lot of you black men, you expect the bare minimum, so nobody has to actually go out here and produce real results for you. All they have to do is merely give you entertainment, and that's what Kevin Samuels gave y'all. Somebody that you can live vicariously through. What you had when it came down to people who are part of the Manosphere are a bunch of beta males. This is just what you're dealing with. Non-select negroes who are pissed off at the world, pissed off with men that can get more women than them. This is what you're dealing with. This is why they reference toward ideologies of black men who simply say, I don't want nothing to do with females. Because that's exactly the lifestyle that they live, not because they choose to, but because they have no choice but to. So when they see somebody they think can get more females than them, oh yeah, they got a problem with them. That's why they have a problem with younger black men. This is why why they can be in their fucking 50s talking about dating 18-year-olds. It makes no goddamn sense. First of all, in my late 30s, I wouldn't talk to an 18-year-old. I have nothing in common with you. Yeah, you might be your body might be physically mature, but your mindset is not there. There's nothing I can do with you. So when you sit back and you thoroughly just break down the ideologies of the Manosphere, what you are dealing with are safe haven Negroes. And that's exactly what Kevin Samuels was. And what lets me know when I'm listening to a Negro where they truly stand and if they're truly about building black society. When you can listen to a black man sit up on a panel, as Kevin Samuels has, and talk about my good Italian friends, I know exactly where you stand. You ain't building no black society. When I can listen to a saints and sinners sit up on a damn live stream talk about my OG friend who's a Jewish guy, you ain't about building shit. When I can listen to you Negroes talk about my white brothers from another mothers, you niggas ain't about building shit. Right then and there, I know exactly where you stand. I can tell how far you are willing to go by what you're not willing to talk about. And there is a plethora of issues that the Manosphere is not willing to talk about. Let me tell you why I use the railroad analogy and say that y'all stop at electrified third rail territory. Once the third rail ends, y'all stop. And y'all change ends. It's either you're going to change ends at Croton Harmon and head back down to Grand Central Terminal, or you are going to put that train in the goddamn yard and wait for the next schedule of your tour, and then you start again. You won't go north of Croton Harmon because, number one, you don't have the equipment to do so. Number two, you don't have the brain capacity to do so. And number three, you're not qualified to do so. When I say these Negroes do not operate outside of third rail electrified territory, third rail electrified territory is a safe haven for them. And particularly what I mean by that, they can run as fast as they want within those limits. They can run as often as they want in those, well, not as fast as they want, but as often as they want within those limits. It's a safe haven. Nothing can go wrong. And what I mean by that is the Manosphere will only go as far as they can blame or pass the blame back onto black people. What do I mean when I say this? If a black man gets gunned down by a police officer, by a white police officer, guess what? The Manosphere and people who follow that mindset are typically going to come out and make videos in defense of the police officer, even if the actions are indefensible. They will come out here and make videos in defense of it. If a black man was innocently shot by a police officer, these Manosphere Negroes will try to find some, there was a raindrop that came out of the sky, and see, that was your fault, and that's why you got shot. This is how they operate. Clearly, when the blame cannot be placed at the foot of that black person. If that black man was shot, they're going to try to dig up his past, go into his background. Oh, see, where he came from this home, he had this amount of kids. They'll say everything they can to completely alleviate that white police officer. You see, that's what you would classify as operating outside of your safe zone, is when you are willing to call out the actual source of the problem, which is what the Manosphere does not do. This is why I tell y'all, if y'all sit around thinking that y'all gonna get tangible and valuable information listening to anybody in that Manosphere, you are not. You are wasting your fucking time. Because if they cared about that, they would be directing you to channels of where you can actually get the real information. And I just gave some, I referenced quite a few. They'll never do this. Because these are a bunch of jealous-hearted Negroes. And I'm gonna also link something in the description box as well. The Black Authority made 2 productions on the business channel. If I don't link both of the videos in the description box, I'm going to link the last one because that one was an absolute firestorm. That was a classic breakdown. And it really highlights the mind frame of people who come within that Manosphere. And what you have, instead of black men looking to be informed, instead of black men looking to be empowered, you're merely looking to be entertained. This is why you will find the Manosphere idolizing people like Robert F. Smith, idolizing people like Bill Cosby, putting black men who do the bare minimum or merely will give them tax write-offs and hush money. They'll accept that. Why? Because their expectations, the bar of expectations out of the Manosphere has been set so low that an ant can scratch his back on it. Let me go ahead and explain what I mean by that when I say about Robert F. Smith. And I broke this down years ago. Because the Manosphere was celebrating Robert F. Smith. Because he was paying for black men to go to college. With all the money he has, if being not one of the wealthiest black man in this country, Robert F. Smith has the capability to do a whole lot more than what he did. Now, see, if the average Joe was out here paying for black men to go to college, a guy who makes $50,000 a year and he was putting black men through college, okay, I'm gonna cover your whole tuition, you can actually praise that dude. Why? Because you're going well beyond what your capabilities allow you to do. How are you doing this? Yes, that's incredible. But when you have a man where that's not even, this is nothing, this is goddamn chump change. Going ahead and putting black men through college, and you have a bunch of mediocre negroes sitting around here praising this. And I'm not saying that putting black men through college is a bad thing. No, it's a good thing, but that don't get black people any fucking where. These negroes will do things that don't move the goalposts. It doesn't change the dynamics. It doesn't empower black people. Robert F. Smith has enough money to where he can start black-owned businesses and put black men in positions of power to where they run these fucking businesses, and he hasn't. You look at his tech company, the ones who are in charge of calling the goddamn shots, I guarantee you, are a bunch of white men. And that speaks volumes. It speaks volumes. Just like when y'all sit up here and y'all praise Bill Cosby. Well, look at everything he's done for the black community. What did he do? Well, he bailed out HBCUs from going into bankruptcy. Now, the HBCU stands for Historically Black Colleges, and furthermore, HBCUs does not directly benefit black people. That is something that anybody, a white person, can go to an HBCU, an Asian, an Arabic, a Hispanic. Anybody can enroll themselves in an HBCU. So what I'm trying to figure out is, how does that benefit black people? And with all the HBCUs that have been in existence, where's black people's condition at within this day and age? In what way are they actually informing or even educating or empowering black people? They're not. They're equivalent and as useless as the relevant dead black church. And that's pretty much where I lump up the black manosphere as well. And just as to go ahead and reference something that took place in that church years ago. This is back in 2000. I believe I had just turned 17. No, I actually was 17. And I remember one of my friends was taking me to this church so we could have something to do on the weekends, to go engage in activities or whatever the case may be over the summer. One of the church members who lived in his apartment complex happened to be there. And we introduced ourselves. Well, he knew who she was. Him and his mother knew who she was. And they introduced me to her. And she began to ask me questions, probing me. What do you do on Sundays? I said, no, just relaxing. Well, why don't you go to church? No, just want to relax. So what do you do on Sundays? I don't want to get into that. What do you do, like what? I don't want to get into that. And she asked again, and I said, well, that's my business for me to know only. Thank you very much. Oh, I see that you're a smart ass. This is what an adult female was doing, probing a teenage boy. An adult female who was raising a teenage son herself. I'm not going to give her the respect and recognition or credit of calling her a woman, because that's not the behaviors of a woman. That's not becoming of a woman. And right then and there, I knew this was just bad energy. So one day, we decided to go to the church and play basketball with some of the kids on the courtroom. And as I'm playing basketball, I'm just there minding my business. Me and my friend were playing with the rest of the guys in the court. This very same female, now this happened weeks prior, now decides to approach me on that basketball court and decides to make a scene. Literally attempting to create an argument as an adult female with a 17-year-old child, with a teenage boy. Who fucking does this? Now this is a black female, by the way. Deciding to pick an argument with a 17-year-old boy. Now, she was a member of that damn church. Now, one thing about me is I don't go anywhere where I'm not going to be appreciated or where I'm going to be at a discomfort. So when she started doing this, I said, you know what? I'm just going to leave. I told my friend, listen, we got to get up out of here. I'm not staying here. Then here you have the weak-ass black pastor who shows up and asks, why are you guys leaving? Hey, stick around. You know, we're going to have pizza. We're going to have food. You know, stick around. We apologize about what's happening. So my question is, when do you check her? When do you put her in her place? Had you pulled her to the side and said, listen, you need to come over here and talk to me. We need to talk right now. What the hell are you doing? You don't do this shit. You don't sit here and create problems for our fucking youth by giving them a hard time and making them feel at a discomfort. You're supposed to be setting the example. But that just shows you the weakness of the pastors within that church. And this was back in 2000. And this is when it first started to dawn on me. There ain't nothing that could be gained out of this fucking church. And when I realized that black pastor, that buck dancing shine for what he was not going to step up to the goddamn plate and confront this female, telling her, you either get your act together or take your ass the hell home. But you're not going to pull this bullshit. When I knew he wasn't going to do that, I said, you know, I'm leaving. I don't give a fuck what you say because you're not giving me any level of insurance that you were going to put a stop to the foolishness and what she was trying to do. And what she was furthermore trying to do was incite those kids on that basketball court, because this is typically what black females do. We'll try to incite other black males to go ahead and pick a fight with somebody because they have a problem with them. So it let me know that the area where you think that you would find sophisticated black women with class, no, you are finding the same bust downs, the same ratchet ghetto ass behavior in the fucking church. So now we hear a story of the black churches are closing down all over the goddamn country. And I say good, they couldn't close soon enough. They are as useless and irrelevant as I would classify the black manosphere. They serve no fucking purpose. They do absolutely nothing. They are not a safe haven for anything. They don't confront the behaviors of the women that go to these goddamn churches. This is why you can have a buck dancing shine like Pastor Jamal Bryant saying what he said about Kevin Samuels. Negro, are you serious? If you don't sit your retarded ass down somewhere, but the fact that you have so many of these goddamn females that follow clowns like this, you, out of all people, are talking about Kevin Samuels, but you black pastors have caused more harm and damage to the black community than any man on YouTube could ever do. Y'all have been a disaster to black society for the longest. But nobody calls y'all out. But anyhow, I digress from that because that's well off a subject. So now let's get back into Kevin Samuels. The problem that we have with the Manosphere and Kevin Samuels. What I can see about Kevin Samuels is not one time have I ever seen him reference other black men in the Manosphere who support the guy, who speak in such high regard of the guy. Never seen this. Now maybe I'm wrong. I've never seen him do collaborations with any of these brothers. I just haven't seen it. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. So I'm not saying this indefinitely. But what I gathered from Kevin Samuels when I looked at his energy and seen his vibe, this was a man who was all in it for himself. This was a man who had over 1 million subs. How is it that you are part of the Manosphere and you are the only one who has reached that level and other black men who are part of that Manosphere are not even close? How do you make sense out of that? How come you are not referring people to other people's channels, saying, hey, why don't you go sub to this guy? I just haven't seen it. Now, maybe I'm wrong. And I even called it out back after I made the video, or when I made the video pertaining to the passing of one Michael David Carroll. And I got pissed off because I said I'd be surprised that this man knows who David Carroll was, but would not even make a video in regards of the man's passing. And when I stated this, like I said, in typical fashion, I'm going to have a bunch of soft, moist, effeminate milk biscuit negroes showing up in my comment thread, pissed off as all hell, typing in caps, leaving vague, empty threats, Because this is how weak you niggas are. And I wish one of you niggas would try something to somebody out in the streets. You ain't finna do nothing. But you know what? Let me not even waste my time getting into that one. But the Negro was trying to say, well, he did change Mr. David Carroll. He did do this. Well, you don't know what you're talking about. You got this wrong. You better not talk about my daddy. This is the shit y'all say. So what I'm going to ask you Negroes who have a problem with what I'm saying right now is, listen, if I'm wrong, I'll fall on the goddamn sword. If I'm wrong, then I stand corrected. But what I want you Negroes to do for me, for those of you who have such a problem with what I'm saying about your YouTube daddy, Kevin Samuels, what I want you to do is produce the link and leave it in the comment section. I tell you all this all the goddamn time. Leave the link in the comment section of the video that he's made paying respects to one Michael David Carroll. I want you to do that for me. Now, I got an idea of what I'm going to get if any of you actually do produce this. You're going to show me a link of a live stream that's probably 2.5 hours, that's based off of a completely different subject. Has nothing to do with David Carroll, but he merely references him within the first 30 seconds of the live stream and then talks about a whole other subject matter. That's not what I'm talking about. So let me clarify. Let me clarify what I'm talking about. If you can produce a 5-minute video, a 10-minute video, a 15 to 20, 25, 30-minute video, anywhere within that time range or above, where he dedicates a full video in respects of the passing of Michael David Carroll. If you can produce that link for me, then I stand corrected, and I will also link it in the description box. That's what I'll do. But if you can't, then don't come to me with him merely referencing the man within the first 3 or 4 seconds and then completely moving on to a completely different subject matter. And I know as low as the expectations that you Negroes have, you Manosphere Negroes, as I told y'all, the bar of expectations has been set so low by y'all that an ant can scratch its back on it. And what I mean by this is you don't expect real tangibles. You accept the bare minimum. You accept mediocrity. So you would accept this man making a 10-second shout out to David Carroll, may he rest in peace, and then moving on. That's good enough for you. That's mediocrity. As I've told y'all before, that's hush money and a damn tax write-off. What do I mean when I say hush money? The hush money is to say, well, how can you say I didn't say something about David Carroll when I mentioned him? Well, you only mentioned 10 seconds, but I said something. So now that he said it, that's enough for you Negroes to keep y'all goddamn mouth shut and not question a man's motives or integrity. That's hush money for you. The write-off for, well, no, it's not even a write-off for him because there's not no cash involved with it. That would more be pertaining to Robert F. Smith and Bill Cosby. So let me go ahead and reference them when it comes down to that. When black men are sitting around putting these men on pedestals because they will pay for some black guys to go to college or bail out HBCUs, guess what? The hush money is when somebody tries to say, well, what are you doing for your community? Well, you can't question me. Look at what I've done. I've paid for black men to go to college. What can you say you have done? And yeah, they can say that and stand tall and high and mighty when it comes down to you as a billionaire saying this to the average Joe as a black man. Yeah, that sounds real good. And like I said, it's a piss poor comparison. Because with that level of resources that you have, no, you can do far more. What you're merely doing is giving people hush money. Keep your goddamn mouth shut. I did the bare basics, the bare minimum. It's not going to propel black men to put them in a whole nother position in society, but it will give enough for the low expectation Manosphere Negroes to keep their damn mouth shut and to use this as a means to shut down my detractors. And that doesn't shut me down. I'm sorry. No. That's hush money. The tax write-off, listen, I can write this shit off my goddamn taxes. I'm going to get my money back. So I ain't even got to worry about taking the goddamn loss. This is where your level of expectations is at. This is why your Manosphere Negroes have gone absolutely nowhere. This is another reason why black society has gotten absolutely nowhere. Because you black men are far too often willing to accept the bare minimum than accepting real tangibles, real results. You Negroes wanted to run around talking about change that you can see when it came down to Barack Obama being in the White House. You ain't seen no goddamn change. You haven't seen no change ever since. You never had one then to begin with. But y'all sit around and y'all follow people who give you the bare minimum, and you put these people on pedestals as if they were heroes. What tells you a lot about Kevin Samuels is the fact that when he had a chance to speak with Nicki Minaj, first of all, he called into her live stream. I've told you black men about this. Now, I'm not saying it's a problem for a black man to call into a black woman's live stream, but based over the type of female that we know Nicki Minaj is, Kevin Samuels had no business calling into that, and if he were going to do so, he should have given her that damn work, which he didn't. He kowtowed to her. He buck danced. That's what he did. This is your fucking godfather. A man who had no integrity, and when y'all sat back and thought he was going to give her the business, he ain't do that shit because he ain't thinking about none of you niggas. When he asked her where would she rate herself, she pushed it right back off onto him, took control of the narrative. You rank me. And instead of him saying, no, I don't rank females, you got to do that. Instead of him standing in integrity, you got to do this. No, he gave her he kowtowed, he buck danced, and what he did was he ranked her at a strong 9. That's what he said. This is your godfather. This is the man that you Negroes idolize and put on a fucking pedestal. This is some sad shit. It shows you that the man has no integrity. Furthermore, reconfirming for me that Kevin Samuels is a safe haven Negro. There's a certain level that he will not go beyond. Now, whether he had the capability to operate outside of the safe havens and confines of third world electrified territory, I'm not exactly sure, but I wouldn't put it past him. Kevin Samuels never struck me as a fool. No, he strikes me as someone who's dishonest. He strikes me as someone that I would never look to when it comes down to getting real advice. He strikes me as a man who's all in it for himself. This is why he was involved with all of these interviews with people that he should have never been caught up with. Now let's just talk about him giving Nicki Minaj a strong 9. Now, the reason why I say he shouldn't have even called into her platform, but if he were, you should have been prepared to give her that goddamn work, and he didn't do it. Nicki Minaj is a part of the degradation that is taking place amongst black women. She is one of the pioneer architect engineers that has destroyed the black woman's image. How do you tell me that a man who was chumming it up with her, ranking her at a strong, now we're talking about a silicone injected female, a prosthetic female who is ranking her at a strong 9. How the fuck is that building a black community? That makes no fucking sense. And then kowtowing to her. He gave her a higher ranking than what she would even give herself. She said this. So I'm sorry for a lot of you Negroes that thought he was going to call in and give her that work. That was no fucking surprise to me. None whatsoever. Because what Kevin Samuels was trying to do was align himself with people who have more clout and recognition than him so he can gain that same level of fame. That's all it was. This is why I start to question, was he set up by anybody? Not by the powers that be, because after all, he's not a threat to their society. He's not a threat to the establishment. If you won't check a ratchet black female who is engaged in all sorts of degradation when it comes down to the image of black women, if you won't call her out on that, then what the fuck makes you think he's gonna call out the real issues in black society? What makes you think he's gonna operate outside of the safe confines and the safe havens of that third world electrified territory? He's not gonna do so. Just like many of you won't. And furthermore, and I'm going to reference the source of where I got this from. I got this from Jason Black's channel, The Business, or found this information out. You're going to see some screenshots that are circulating right now of Tom Likas. And as I told y'all, Kevin Samuels is the type of dude that would sit up here and say, well, when my good Italian friends, when I start hearing language like this, it lets me know exactly what I'm dealing with. I don't have to necessarily see this to know that this is spot on accurate information. Because the problem is with a lot of you black men, y'all are too busy looking for the approval of white men. Now, I want y'all to understand how disgusting and how egregious this shit really is. And I'm going to break down something for y'all when it comes down to other groups and how they function and compared to how how ass backwards you are as black men. And I'm talking about each and every last one of you in that manosphere. You're ass backwards. This is why your movement will go nowhere. Put it in the same category as that irrelevant dead black church. It needs to go just like those damn churches do. Y'all serve no purpose. Because Kevin Samuels went ahead and gave props to Tom Leykis, a fossilized has-been. Someone that nobody would listen to. I've known of Tom Leykis since I first got on YouTube back in 2011. Would I listen to brief clips if somebody sent it to me? Yes, but would I actually sit down and listen to one of his radio shows? Hell no. You think I'm going to listen to this fat, nasty-looking guy give advice when it comes down to females? You're not qualified. It's not happening. Now, all of the fucking black men who put Kevin Samuels on pedestals, who would shout him out, who would promote his videos, who would share his content, I would not hear him shout out not a single one of y'all. But he had no fucking problem in shouting out Tom Leykis, and look at how he's repaid now. Tom Leykis pretty much saying he got what he deserved because he was taking other people's material. And even after people came along and corrected Tom Leykis and say, no, you're wrong about that. He gave you shout outs on numerous different occasions. You got this one completely wrong. Some of you black men who are so weak that you are referring to this white guy as dad. Some of y'all are some bitch-made negroes. There's no other way I can say this. You're weak as fuck. You're on here looking for a white savior, and this is exactly what you are dealing with when it comes down to this manosphere. A group of weak-ass negroes who really stand for absolutely nothing. They're cowards in the grand scheme of things. This is why they have no problem. They don't want to put forth another black man. They don't want to promote other black men's channels. They won't do that. But they will reference white men every chance they get, and just as quickly these white men will shoot you down in a heartbeat. And even after black men came along and told him, dude, you got this wrong, he still doubled down on his position. Fuck that. My position stands where it may. And let this be a slap in the face to all of you retarded, goofy-ass negroes who are running around putting this man up on some sort of a fucking pedestal, because this is the guy who is building a black community now, isn't he? This is the guy who wanted to see black Americans do well, right? Mind you now, he's up on a pedestal by himself. And this is the problem when it comes down to far too many of you negroes. Y'all are one of this, y'all have no problem watching yourself reach a certain level of success. And as long as you're the only negro in that space, you're fine with that. You don't want to have an entourage of powerful black men around you. This is what other groups of people do. This is why they keep themselves protected from shit like this. You negroes will have no problem operating in a space and being on an island by yourself, being successful, being the only black man at that level of success. This explains the mindset of what goes on in the African continent, why that continent is being exploited the way it is, why them African presidents and leaders allow the shit that goes on. This is your mindset. This is why we have gotten absolutely nowhere. So how dare one of you negroes, and you milk biscuit, soft, effeminized negroes, have the audacity to come to my goddamn comment thread and try to talk about, "Are you beautiful?" Get the fuck off my damn comment thread with that stupid shit. I ain't trying to hear it. Because when I look at a Kevin Samuels, I know him for what he is. I know what he's going to deal with, and I know what he's not going to talk about. Because in order for you to truly be about black empowerment means that you're going to offend some people. You're going to piss white people off. And listen, at the end of the goddamn day, you don't give a shit because you know what your objective is. The problem with you Manosphere Negroes, you will go out here and you will build something and you will have no problem handing it over to white people. Looking to find some white guys that you can put in an authoritative position on a platform that you built and created. Mind you now, they will never do this for you, ever. No matter how much they might like your content, no matter how much they might think, hey, I agree with the stuff he says, they will never do this for you. Because unlike your black ass, they understand the means and importance of making sure that they control the narrative. The reason why Tom Leykis, and many other white guys who are trying to espouse some of the same information that Kevin Samuels was putting out here, they don't like that because why? They're losing control over the narrative. And if Kevin Samuels, in certain cases, which he had white females listening into his content, that's a problem for them. White men do not want you Negroes controlling the narrative when it comes down to their women. They want to be the sole controllers of the damn narrative. So when they see black men reaching a level of success and you now got white women calling in and listening to this, that's a serious problem for them. Kevin Samuels did nothing wrong when it came down to Tom Leykis, because Tom Leykis could not substantiate what material did he steal from you. If you're going to say something like this, you have to be able to verify what you're saying. You have to be able to substantiate it. You can't just throw out a bold blanket statement out here like this and not back it up. So what was your real reason, the real problem that you have with Kevin Samuels, if you have become irrelevant? You're a joke. And the funny thing is, the black men that Kevin Samuels would take material from and never reference are the very same groups of men who will come out and actually have defended him in the course of all this. But the very same white guys that he was pedestalizing, giving recognition to, are the very same ones who will come out here and trash this man and throw his black ass under the damn bus due to his passing. I want y'all to go think about that. Let that be a slap in the face to all of you goofy ass Manosphere Negroes. Y'all are some goddamn jokes. I have absolutely nothing respectable to say about y'all, and this is another reason why years ago I made it perfectly clear to anybody, whether it be black men or black women, do not lump me in the category with these Manosphere niggas. They are not on my level. These are low vibrational, low frequency Negroes. They deal with the bare minimum at best. The expectations, the bar of expectations have been set so low for them that an ant can scratch his back on it. This is why they are not respected. And I could give you example after example on why these Negroes are not respected. And just to go ahead and let it be known, when they want to place the blame at the feet of black people, that is as far as they're willing to go, and that's third rail electrified territory only. What was it, back in 2017, I made it blatantly clear, and this is when my talking points started to change, that I'm done using the talking point about what about black on black crime. Because when I started analyzing how other groups of people function, there was no saying within any other race about what about crime, white on white, Asian on Asian, Hispanic on Hispanic, whatever. There was no such saying when it comes down to other groups of people. This is only applicable when it comes down to black people. And then when you see black people running around regurgitating this stupid shit that somebody literally placed and bestowed upon your community for the sole purpose of spinning a bad narrative, creating a negative stigma of black people. When I came to that conclusion, I said, there is no way in hell you will ever see me say no shit. I don't give a fuck how much crime takes place in the black community. You will never hear me use that terminology ever again. Because until I can hear y'all saying this about your own groups, then therefore I will not say it about my own. You see, there's an unspoken code when it comes down to other groups of people. They're not going to tell you this, but they demonstrate it with their actions. And that's what I look for. I don't give a fuck what your words say. I'm looking at your actions. You can tell me one thing. You can tell me you're going north, but then I see you going south. No, I don't believe you're not going north. You're not going to convince me that you're going north when I clearly see that you're heading south. You might take me for a goddamn fool, but you ain't dealing with a motherfucking fool. That's just not the case. So I made this clear back in 2017 that I'm done using the talking point of what about black on black crime. That's over for me. And one of the things that I realized and what made me come to this turning point, there was a situation that took place in Chicago in 2017 where white police officers were setting up sting operations in black communities, leaving cargo trucks full with all sorts of footwear, Nike Air Jordans, Reebok, whatever, you name it, it was in there. And they would leave these trucks unlocked for the sole purpose, hoping that they could get some black people to go inside of these trucks to steal merchandise, then while setting them up and having them locked up. Now, when the brothers caught wind of this in that city, they stepped up to the goddamn plate and showed, which is possession, establishing your territory. And they filmed these police officers and they put them on blast. Now, those cops quickly had to shut that operation down because they were being called out and it was being exposed for the fucked up shit they were doing. But the response that the police were saying was, well, if you're not committing crime, then you have nothing to worry about. Fuck that. That's not the point. Because what you're doing, you're not catching people who what you're trying to do is engineer crime. You're trying to set up bait. That's entrapment. For the sole purpose of feeding your industrial prison complex. That's what you're doing. Because if you were trying to, if this is the way you thought you was going to solve crime, then you will go to every community and do this. But the fact that you have not done this and you will not do this, therefore lets us know that you're being biased, that you're targeting a specific group of people. Now, when I sat back and I listened to some of these black men make videos talking about that, their response was not that of a territorial response saying, no, them brothers handle themselves the right way. Their response was not of a, well, you shouldn't be out here setting up sting operations in our community. No, the response that I seen of black men was that of a response of, well, if you're not committing crime, then you don't got nothing to worry about. That is a cowardly mentality that shows that you lack possession, that you lack territorial instinct to defend what's yours. You have none of the above. This is what this demonstrates. And then some of you Negroes have the audacity to sit online and wonder why it is that black women get online and say such the disrespectful things they say about your retarded asses. And y'all can't figure this out. Because instead of you telling these cops, get the hell out of my community with this shit, we don't need you coming around here harassing black people, take that shit and go. Now y'all will sit back and align with these cops despite the fact no matter how wrong they are, you will align yourself with their behavior. Because why? It requires a set of balls for you to actually call them out because they're white men. You don't want to do that. You want to give them a pass, and as long as you can find some way to pass the blame and put it back on the feet of black people, you're cool with that. Mind you now, these people would never do the same for you. The response and the typical talking points that you're going to hear from the black manosphere and a lot of you cowardly black men, in addition to what about black on black crime, is, well, had they only complied, well, if you pick yourself up by the bootstraps, if you just do what you're told, if you just be a good little Negro, then nothing's going to happen to you. And even in cases where black men are actually complying and doing what they're supposed to do or not doing anything at all, and something happens to these black men, these very same group of Negroes, instead of going ahead and holding that white police officer accountable or that white perpetrator accountable, they will find some reason to place the blame at the behest of black people. This is how y'all operate. Y'all are fucking cowards. This is what y'all are. So you can't sit up here and tell me that this group of cowardly Negroes are trying to talk about building anything when it comes down to a black society. After all, these are the same group of Negroes that mock their own community by calling it the community. Y'all are the only groups of people on the face of the planet who are this fucking stupid. No other group of people operate like this except black people. It's an embarrassment. This manosphere has been a detriment to black society. They are not benefiting anybody. They are disgraced. They're weak. They're cowardly. They will not operate beyond a certain realm because that requires these niggas to have a set of fucking balls, which they don't have. They're chumming it up to white people every chance they get. They have a hatred for other black men who know what they're fucking talking about, and they won't even reference them. There's a reason why they do this. Jealous-hearted, angry, bitter Negroes. This is why they constantly reference the Pookies and Ray Rays all the goddamn time. Let me continue on by saying this. In addition to that situation that took place in 2017, and when I seen the disgusting response that I watched out of black men, co-signing what the police were doing. They've done nothing wrong, but now the black men, oh, you just don't commit crime, you ain't got nothing to worry about. No. Protecting your community means that when you see some shit like this going on, when you find somebody trying to fucking run roughshod in your community, you put a stop to it. You don't sit back and co-sign with the perpetrator who's running roughshod through your community. Because best believe you would never see a group of black police officers setting up sting operations in white communities, setting up bait trucks, whether it be full of electronics, computer gadgets, laptops, tablets, whatever it is that they're into, drones, whatever. You will never find a situation like that taking place, let alone if it did. I guarantee you every last one of those cops will be out of a job come the next week. Why? because white people wouldn't sit back and allow that to happen. They understand the meaning, the importance of controlling what goes on in their community. If we didn't authorize this, why is this happening? See, these people understand being territorial, controlling what's theirs. You niggas, on the other hand, that are part of the Manosphere, know nothing about it. You're cowards. You're weak. And as an example of this, and I'm just giving you 2 examples. There's so many different examples that I could run down. It's not even funny. And as a matter of fact, I probably will run down a few. We're going to be here for a little while. Like I told you, I'm probably going to go into 2 hours with this production. In 2020, I want y'all to think about this. You can listen to the talking points of these negroes. If you pick yourself up by the bootstraps, had you only complied, had you did what the police officer told you to do, you wouldn't have this problem. If you stop sagging, listen, I agree, stop sagging. If you conduct yourself and speak in proper English, and see, this is as far as these Negroes are willing to go, because they can place the blame at the behest of black people. But when it comes down to operating outside of the safe havens and confines of third rail electrified territory, you know that that's not the issue. That's not why you're targeted. Because if this were the issue, then how do you explain in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, when black people were protesting for civil rights, to be treated fairly? And they were having German shepherds sicked on them and being sprayed with fire hoses. I mean, we're talking about high pressure hoses just blasting them. Water pressure that'll knock you through a fucking brick wall. How do you explain this? When you look at those brothers that were being attacked like that for simply trying to have their shit together and just simply trying to be treated fairly, were these groups of black men or Negroes that were sagging pants? No. Were these buffoonish jackasses running around bumping music loud, acting like with grills in their mouth, conducting themselves like bona fide fucking idiots? No. These were suited and booted brothers, dressed with a suit and tie on, proper shoes, a nice iron pants. This is what they were wearing, and yet and still they were being attacked. So this clearly lets us, and this was happening, what, damn near 100 years ago. So clearly this indicates that being suited and booted and picking yourself up by the bootstraps is not enough, because you can still be attacked. So clearly that's not the reason as of why you are going through the situation that black people go through. And I'll give you another example. And this happened recently. 2020. You had a black U.S. military sergeant. Okay? He was driving his SUV. And he was pulled over by police officers. Now, this is in the middle of the night. They pulled him over based off of him having tints on his window. Not because he was driving illegally or doing some crazy shit on the road, because of him having tints in his window. Fine, whatever. That's not the end of the world. So since there was no place safe for him to pull over, because it was dark, he drives a mile up the road and pulls into a gas station. He pulls into this gas station. The senior police officer, who's supposed to be in control, supposed to be demonstrating proper leadership, gets out of the car with his gun pointed at this man, at his windshield. He starts yelling, barking out orders. Why did you go all the way this far and pull into this gas station? And the man rolls down his window and says, listen, it was dark, it was unsafe. I just wanted to pull into someplace safe, that's all. The man wasn't being belligerent. The man wasn't being disrespectful. And all he was asking was for the police officers to talk to him. Now, that should have been enough. The minute he said, listen, I was just trying to do what I thought was safe, that should have been enough for the cop to lower his guard and say, all right, let me take it down a few notches and just talk with this man. Next thing, when you see him in military attire, that should have been even more of a reason for you to put your gun away and just explain to him the reason why you pulled him over. That's not what that police officer did. Here you have a senior police officer who was taught how to de-escalate a problem and is only inciting a problem. There was no problem to begin with, because the man wasn't making an issue. He wasn't being combative. He wasn't being belligerent. It even gone as far as to the point where they snatched him out of his automobile. A man in full military uniform, and that should have been enough for them to say, you know what, sir, you have a nice day. Sorry to bother you. We just wanted to make sure everything was safe. Just by the way, just be careful with those tints because they're illegal. That's all they should have did and sent him about his way. No, what they did was snatch him out of the car, threw him to the ground. Now this is a black man in U.S. military attire who is serving his country, who is being publicly humiliated. This is a man who picked himself up by the bootstraps. This is a man who was complying. This is a man who was serving his country, who was a patriot of his country, and was being publicly humiliated. And when I listened to the responses of what black men had given based off of those circumstances, y'all found a way to blame that black man for what happened to him. Oh, he was cow chasing. Why did he have to film it? He wouldn't even do that. Why were you cow chasing? This is the stupid shit that comes out your mouth. Y'all are fucking cowards. Disgusting. I'm embarrassed behind the shit I hear that you black men are willing to get online and espouse day in and day out. So on one hand, if a black man is resisting arrest, if he's being belligerent, if he's doing all of this crazy shit, see, how did he comply? Why was he doing all that? If he just complied, then what would have happened to him? So now when you have a black man complying, now it's still his fault. Now, what does it take for a black man to finally get you negroes to come out here and defend his black ass? What does it take for him to get y'all to finally go out here and say, no, what that officer did was wrong? See, like I told y'all, these negroes will not operate outside of third world electrified territory. Why? Because that is their safe haven. They will not call out white people no matter what happens, no matter how egregious what they do is. They won't call them out because they don't have the heart to. This is why they stay within their safe haven. They're too scared to venture outside of those confines because they don't know what they're going to come across. When you go into diesel territory, that's where I operate. So when I grab my train in Grand Central Terminal, I'm telling them, listen, you need to hitch on 2 or 3 engines onto this consist. Because I'm not terminating at Croton Harmon. I don't terminate at Poughkeepsie. I'll merely stop there. That's if I even stop to begin with. This train's going to make its way knee deep into Canada before this is all said and done. We might end up all the way to California before the route is finished. So therefore, if 1 engine fails en route, if 2 fail en route, I still can continue to carry my load. As I told y'all have a certain set of negroes who only operate within the confines of third rail electrified territory. Meaning, as long as they can place the blame at the feet of black people, that is exactly what they'll do. Even if they can't find nothing, they will try to create something out of thin air to try to blame that black person. And in none of these situations where a black man is doing what he's supposed to do or a black woman is doing what they're supposed to do, will they come forth and defend them. They won't do this. This is what you call cowardly negroes. And if you sit back and you listen to the advice of these negroes, I guarantee you will get absolutely nowhere. Nowhere. You can't. Because they have nothing of substance to teach you. The only thing they can teach you is be a good little boy and hope that nothing happens to you. They're cowards. They're not trying to empower you in any way, shape, or form. They don't want to see you reach to the next level. They could care less about that. This is why they idolize mediocrity. This is what you'll find when it comes down to this group of black men. So as I stated before, when they're sitting back saying, well, why was he filming? Why was he clout chasing? No, you film for a reason every time, especially if you're a black man and you come up to an encounter with police officers. You film. And what that film ensures is that it ain't going to be your word against his or hers. It can be your word against my video. And when you have videos posted all over social media, guess what? The mainstream media can't spin the narrative any way they feel fit. When you have millions of people who can repost the original film or footage, they can't now take the video and edit it any way they feel fit and hope that they can get away with it. This is the reason why you film these encounters. Because therefore, it'll be their word against yours, and you never want to find yourself going against them word for word. You want to have physical evidence that backs up and substantiates what you're saying. That's called being smart. So these negroes are literally giving advice on how to be weak, how to be stupid, and literally how to find yourself in a fucked up situation. Because they'll say this shit as if somehow police officers are not known for fabricating shit, especially against black men. Which this has been a proven fact time and time again. So the fact that any black man will come out here and say some dumb shit like that only lets you know what you were dealing with. It's pathetic. It's a goddamn disgrace. And here's what's even sadder about this, because some of these same Negroes would have the unmitigated gall, the audacity to have a problem with the talking points of that of a Cynthia G. They have a problem with what she's saying about black men. They have a problem with what the likes of a Cynthia G would say. And they wonder, how is it that you could get online and say aborting black male babies? How can you say these things? How can you get online and call black men trash bag dusties and nakers and so forth and so on? Well, let me tell you something right now. You Negroes don't have the integrity to call out a Cynthia G. You don't have the equipment. You don't have the capability. You are simply not qualified to call somebody like her out. Now, she needs to be called out, absolutely. Some of these very same Negroes are the same ones who are trying to boycott her channel and have her banned off of YouTube a year ago. Now listen, if that's how you feel, it is what it is. But what I'm saying is, if you sit here and espouse talking points and you are willing to exonerate white people, white police officers, or people of other races whenever they harm one of your own, and we know that this predominantly happens to black men. Now, I'm not saying every last one of these situations that has happened to black men, that these dudes are innocent. So some of these situations you simply cannot defend. The cop was in the right. But in the situations where you clearly see that the cop is in the wrong, y'all say nothing. As a matter of fact, some of y'all are the very same group of Negroes who have gotten online and made support videos to these police officers. I'd like to offer support to Officer so-and-so. This is what y'all done. And this is the reason why I can say that you're not qualified to call out a Cynthia G. You don't have the integrity to do so. But what I'm going to say behind that, because if you have such a problem with what she says about black men and boys, then when it comes down to defending black men and boys, you have to be the first line of defense when it comes down to black men and boys. And when you refuse to do that because you are too busy siding up with the white guys who inflict harm on them, then therefore you yourself cannot and should not be taken seriously when it comes down to calling out a Cynthia G. Like I said, you don't have the integrity. In situations where you clearly should be defending black men, y'all don't do this. Some of y'all will call yourselves being fair and balanced, but no, we see one-sided arguments which completely contradicts fair and balancedness. Whenever a white cop shoots a black man, even if it's completely unjustified, like I told y'all, you Negroes will come out here and make videos offering support for that police officer. Immediately. Y'all will sprout out and fire up a video immediately in defense of these police officers. Now, if it's the other way around and it's a black police officer that shoots down, whether it be a white woman, shoots a white person, y'all have nothing to say about this. I'll give y'all one example. Muhammad Nuwar, the black police officer that shot that white lady. They were sitting in the alley somewhere. She runs up to the police vehicle, frantic, banging on the window, and he pulls out the gun and shoots her one time. Now, there's no critique about what that white female did and what she shouldn't have did. Why were you showing up in an alley? Why were you banging on the police window frantically? Why were you doing what you did? You startled the cop. Had you not done that, maybe you would have survived. You will not hear not a single one of these Negroes come out and make a single video in defense of that cop, despite the fact that they locked his ass up. Now, I believe he's just been released or is about to be released, but he served, I believe, 3 years or more behind bars. And you ain't find not one of these damn Negroes coming out here saying, I would like to offer support for Officer so-and-so. Not one of them. Every last one of them have remained silent, which lets you know where they really stand. Another example. Let's take it back to it a little over a year ago. January 6, 2021, just last year. You had the insurrection attempt on the nation's capital. You had that white female, Ashley Babbitt, who got shot by a black police officer. We come to find out that it was a black cop who worked for the nation capital who shot her one time. Now, this is where I want y'all to compare and contrast how white men respond to this situation compared to how you niggas respond to a situation of them doing the same thing to you. When white men caught a wind of this, They did not defend this police officer. They weren't backing him. They weren't talking about back the blue. All that shit came to an end. They only say that when it comes down to defense of themselves. There was no back the badge, none of the above. There was no had she only complied. You ain't hear none of this shit. Nothing. Despite the fact what Ashley Babbitt did was illegal. She broke into a federal building, which is a federal offense, and proceeded to bum rush her way into a room where a nation's capital police officer was standing there with a loaded firearm and told her, stand back, stand down. And despite the fact that it was made blatantly clear that there was a firearm, because every white man that was on the other side of that wall knew this and had called it out. And what did they do? They fell back. But yet Miss G.I. Jane decided, I'm going to make my way through here and I'm going to show these men that a woman can do it better. Listen, I wouldn't be surprised if that's exactly what Ashley Babbitt was thinking. And she found out the hard way, you ain't Miss G.I. Jane. You ain't some badass because you're from the military. You ain't no different than anybody else who is standing behind that wall. And just one bullet is all it takes to put your lights out permanently. One bullet. As bad as she thought she was, I bet she felt a whole nother way when she was laid out on the damn ground, breathing her last breath, realizing she was bleeding out through the neck and she wasn't gonna make it. I bet she realized, okay, I'm not that badass I thought I was. Had I only stand down, I would not be in this situation right now. But what did Tucker Carlson and the rest of white guys come out and say? Well, that shouldn't have happened to her. She wasn't a criminal, despite the fact that she broke federal law, which is a federal offense. Breaking into a federal building. What are we supposed to classify her as? A goddamn hero? This is what white men will say. She was a hero. Now, regardless, she might have been the nicest, most kindest person in the fucking world. But when you decide to go and take it upon yourself and do something as reckless as what she did, do you hear white men saying that she caused her own death? No. Do you hear white men saying had she only complied? No. Do you hear white men saying, well, what was she doing in the nation's capital? Why did she decide to go all the way from California, all the way for hundreds of miles across country to find herself in that predicament? Had she only stayed home? Do you hear any of these talking points? Not a single one. Many of these white men who believe that she was a hero and that the black police officer who shot her, who was merely doing his fucking job, they feel he should be arrested. That what he did was a crime. According to Tucker Carlson, she wasn't a threat to nobody. She wasn't harming nobody, despite the fact that she was bum rushing through a goddamn window. It had an angry mob of how many people behind her. What was that police officer supposed to do? Sit and wait to see what she was going to do? Are you serious? But you notice how whenever it comes down to an unarmed black person, they can show videos demonstrating how quickly that black person can be a threat and why the cop needs to use lethal force, right? But now when you have somebody, even if they're just standing there, but now when you have a woman, a white woman at that, bum rushing her way through a window, breaking into a federal building and has an angry mob of people behind her, we're supposed to stop and wait and see what happens now, don't we? I mean, what kind of ass backwards bullshit are we dealing with here? But the saddest part is, despite the fact that that police officer did his job, what I want to know, I already know where white people are going to be when it comes down to this. So this does not surprise me. But what I'm trying to figure out here, the same group of negroes that will come out here and say, I would like to offer support to officer so-and-so, as long as he's white. Why was that black man clout chasing, coming up with every excuse for why that black man deserved what he got? Where are you negroes when it comes down to defending this black police officer who was merely doing his fucking job? He didn't unload on this woman. He shot her one time. Unfortunately, it was the bullet that took her life. But she, at the end of the day, as fucked up as that was, she made her choice. This was a military veteran who should have known better than to go into a situation where you have a man standing with a loaded firearm. That's when you know to stand down. You're taught these tactics when you're training in the military. So she already knew this. And I guarantee you what was going on through the back of her mind, despite the fact that she seen all those white men standing down, she figured, I'm going to go ahead and do it better than them because a woman can do it but better than you. And she found out the hard way, no. You're not this badass, this G.I. Jane that you thought you were, and this is exactly why she is laying with the maggots and the worms, pushing up daisies. And as I've stated before, not a single one of you Negroes who will get out here and defend white cops. You only defend cops as long as they're white. Not a single one of you Negroes will come out here and defend that black police officer for merely doing his job. Silence is all kept as usual. Why? Because you can't blame this or put this at the feet of black people. You can't. What are you going to say about that cop? Why did he have to shoot her? Why did he have to use lethal force? It just sounds stupid at this point in time. It's reaching at best. But this is where we're at. So the fact that we see such a level of inconsistent behavior when it comes down to the Manosphere and Negroes who think like this, and I've just given you numerous examples on how cowardly, how spineless, and how weak they really are. They don't have integrity, and the only time they will get out here and call something out is if they can place the blame at the feet of black people. This is what they'll do. Any other time, if they can't place it at the blame of black people, they'll try to make up something out of thin air, or they're going to remain silent. And that truly lets you know where they stand. It lets you know what they're about. But at the end of the goddamn day, like I said, notice how those white men stuck to that unspoken code. They're not going to sit there and trash Ashley Babbitt. They're not going to say what she did was wrong. Now, I guarantee you, had the officer that shot Ashley Babbitt was white and had Ashley Babbitt been a black woman, I guarantee you would have found all these goofy Negroes coming out here to make videos. Well, why was she over in the nation's capital? What was she doing over there? Has she only complied? All of those stupid, goofy ass talking points that they use. And you'd have had white people right along with them saying that same dumb ass shit. A complete, blatant hypocrisy and furthermore an inconsistency. I teach y'all about pattern recognition on this channel. This is what y'all dealing with. You see, if I go ahead and I say something about these Negroes, I'm going to mirror you Negroes. You ain't going to have nothing that you can defend your weak ass, vague position with when it comes down to me. You're just not. You're not. Because I'm not dealing with you from a point of emotion. I'm not dealing with you from a point of anger. I'm looking at your flawed, vague position and how it makes no fucking sense. I'm looking at your futile stance in society and seeing how you can't make logical sense out of this. These aren't positions that can be substantiated or backed with logic and reasoning. It's nonsense. That's what it is. And this is what you're dealing with when it comes down to individuals in the Manosphere. Now, I told y'all about Obsidian years ago and why I chose to stop. I unsubscribed from him a long time ago. I subscribed to him very briefly back in 2017. And the reason why I did that was based off of his resilience when he was being flagged down by all of these damn divestors. And he came back and made another channel and got right back into the swing of things. I said, that's resilience. I got to respect that. I gave it a subscription. But 2017 is when Donald Trump took the White House. And I remember watching Obsidian gleefully gloat and cheerlead Donald Trump in such a gleeful manner. Black men are winning! This is what he was stating. And why were black men winning? Because Donald Trump was going to give black women their wake-up call. Put a pause on that for a second. I'm going to say that one more time for y'all. Obsidian was cheerleading Donald Trump on and saying that black men were winning based off of Donald Trump, which is a white man, was getting ready to put black women in their place. He was going to check black women. He was going to discipline black women. This is what Obsidian believed. Something that he as a man could not do himself. Something that black men collectively have not been able to do. Because y'all lack leadership. Y'all lack integrity. Many of you are just not qualified to do this. But will gleefully gloat and brag about how a white man is getting ready to check your woman, which at the end of the day is your job, black man. Now I want you to notice something. You will never find white men sitting up here cheerleading black men putting white women in their place. Which is another reason why Tom Likas and a host of other black male radio hosts do not like Kevin Samuels. Because once again, if he's getting white women to sit down and listen to him, if black men are now controlling the narrative, that is a detriment to them. They don't like that, nor will they ever support it. Because they understand the importance of having control of influencing their own women. And if they're unable to discipline their women and black guys are the ones disciplining them, that showcases that they have failed. And they'll never accept that. They'll never accept that. Which is another reason why I got to wonder, and I'm toying around with many different things in my head. Was this a setup? Kevin Samuels passing? I don't know, but at the end of the damn day, he wasn't a threat to their society. And when you hear black men sitting up here cheerleading on white men for disciplining your women, understand that is a sign of weakness. Your woman is never going to have a reason to respect you. And this is another reason why women collectively don't respect black men. The issues that black men deal with in society is not a lack of getting pussy. That's not the issue. Even non-select black men can still get ass. The issue that black men have collectively is you don't have respect. You're not respected. People look at you and they see signs of weakness. Now, they will sit here and cheerlead you as you demonstrate your weakness. However, what lets you know whether they truly support or whether they truly believe in that fundamentally for themselves is if they're willing to do the same things that you're doing. And since they don't do this, essentially what you're watching is these other groups of people will watch you, they will support you, watch you make a whole fucking fool out of yourself, wind you up, and put batteries in your back and watch you go run off of a fucking cliff and kill your goddamn self. But when you in that ditch, guess what? You down there by yourself. Those same people that told you we got you, we're gonna back you up, man, we wholeheartedly in support with you, we with you all the way. When you take off like a bat out of hell, and you look back behind you, those same people who told you that they were gonna be there with you every step of the way are nowhere to be found. This is what you're dealing with when it comes down to the manosphere. The manosphere lacks foresight. The manosphere fails to understand optics. The manosphere knows nothing about the meaning of leadership. They don't care to acquire power, harness resources. They don't care nothing about that. This is why you find all of these black men who will build something for themselves and go out and find white guys that they can put in authoritative positions in a platform that they have built. Mind you now, white men will never operate like this with you, ever. Ever. I don't care how cool he is with you. I don't care how much he likes you. I don't care how much he looks at you as a brother. He will never put you in a position in white spaces as a position of authority over white men. That will never happen. Ever. And what furthermore solidifies this, Jesus Christ, somebody's fire alarm is going off. Hold on a second. Okay, that was somebody with a damn moving truck backing the truck up outside. All right. What furthermore solidifies what I was saying about black men willing to hand over the keys of their castle to somebody who looks nothing like them. They don't want to put up a predecessor that looks like them. They'll go ahead and say, nah, I don't want to see another black man in this position. I'll go get somebody non-black to run it for me. This is how a lot of y'all think, and this is why a lot of you older black men are not respected. You got a buck-dancing, bald-headed shine by the name of Willie D, who tries to claim that he's a pro-black, and if any of y'all are stupid enough to believe that shit, I got a bridge in Brooklyn I'll sell you for an even cheaper price. And what let me know enough about him is this Negro sat up here and talked about how Eminem is at the top of the food chain in the hip-hop industry. He's sitting at the top of the throne. He's sitting in the throne, and I'm cool with that. So here you have a Negro who is sitting here handing over a genre that black men have created. A culture that black men created, that we cultivated, that's for us. And literally handing over the keys to that castle to a white guy. A lot of you Negroes who would sit up here and say that Eminem was the greatest rapper alive. This shows how pitiful you Negroes really are. Now, mind you, you could not go in any genre that they've created and think you were going to run roughshod and reign supreme and sit at the top of the pinnacle or in the throne And they're cool with it. They will never allow this to happen. But somehow black men fail to recognize that pattern and how that is an inconsistency and how ridiculous and how pitiful you look. Even if you are better than them at their own shit, they aren't going to put you on that level. They're just not, because they understand the importance of controlling their own shit. We cannot allow this to happen because they understand the importance of controlling their own territory. This is our territory. This is for us. And see, the way white men think about shit, a white man can have an arch enemy who's another white man. Can't stand this person. If I get the first chance I get, I will hurt this person. I can't stand this person. They'll deal with each other on that level. But now, if he's going to take a loss, and he has to think about who he's going to take a loss to, another white man who's your arch enemy, or black guy over here that you don't know, who you're mutual with or indifferent to, what he's going to say is, I'm going to take a loss to that white man. You Negroes, on the other hand, don't think about that. You don't think on that level. See, you Negroes will have a problem and be jealous-hearted of other black people, other black men, and say, well, you know what? Why should I prop up other black men? And Kevin Samuels made it blatantly clear. He don't have to do nothing for the youth of black men. Why should we? So therefore, it's no surprise to me when I see him propping up Tom Leykis, giving shout-outs and praise to Tom Leykis. And it would not surprise me. Like I said, I didn't watch much of his stuff because I didn't care to listen to the guy. But it would not surprise me if he has done this with multiple white men. Because this is how you Negroes are. And I've told y'all this when it comes down to the educated lame years ago. The educated lame, what makes them lame is not the fact that they're educated. They're lame because they lack unity amongst other black people. They do not care to build amongst other black men. They are not trying to have a society with educated brothers. Okay, maybe we don't fuck with these black dudes over here, but we gonna fuck with other black guys who think like us. They don't even think like that. And Kevin Samuels was the epitome of this. This is why he had no problem reaching the level of success that he did. But won't even reference you Negroes. Won't even do so. And you have brothers who have been in this platform for years. And let me just go ahead and make an example of this. This is how I know Kevin Samuels has the same mindset as many of you Negroes. He had that same mindset. And how do I know this? Let me just talk about O'Shea Duke Jackson for a second. Oh, but before I do that, let me finish with my piece with Obsidian. And this is what confirms why I can say they don't operate outside of third rail electrified territory. That is their safe haven. Years ago, Brother New Possibilities, I believe this was back in 2017, was having a debate with Obsidian. And anybody knows back at that time, me and Brother New Possibilities were at odds with each other. But regardless to whatever my opinion was back then of that debate, or the results or the outcome of that debate, there was an important question that Brother New Possibilities asked that really summed up everything that was needed to be known about Obsidian. And New Possibilities asked him, do you see white supremacy as the issue? And what Obsidian stated was that I don't see white men as my problem, or the problem that plagues black people. I want y'all to understand that. I'm going to say that one more time for y'all. Brother New Possibilities asked Obsidian, do you see white supremacy as the issue for black people? And Obsidian responded by saying, I do not see white men as the problem that plagues black America. The black community, as he so often says. Does this not solidify what I've already told y'all when it comes down to individuals like this? That these are what you would classify as safe haven Negroes. Now, New Possibilities didn't say anything about white men. He said white supremacy. Obsidian wouldn't even mention that. Because like I told y'all, that requires them to have a set of fucking balls. That requires them to operate outside of the safe haven and confines of third rail electrified territory, which they're incapable of doing. Some of them, only a few of them actually can do this. Many of you just simply are incapable of doing so. And the few that can do this simply choose not to. Why? Because they don't have the heart to do so. It requires you to piss some people off, which is what they don't want to do. Who would they be pissing off if they start talking about this? Will be the very same white guys that they worship and love so much. This is literally what you're dealing with. As I've told y'all, this is what you would classify as safe haven Negroes. Just about every last one of them that run to that manosphere have that mindset. So when y'all try to come to me talking about, well, they're trying to build something for black men. No, if you won't even deal with the source of the fucking problems, how the fuck are you building a goddamn thing? When you're too afraid to call out the goddamn source of the issues that plague black America, how can you then tell me that you're building a black society? These are the same groups of black men who literally sit up and say that they can somehow build a new black community with non-black women. Somebody make fucking sense out of this, because I can't figure this shit out. And then y'all wonder why this movement has gone absolutely fucking nowhere. This is what you're dealing with. They all run with the same mindset. This is why they won't even give credit to other brothers when they get certain talking points. And this brings me back to O'Shea Duke Jackson. A couple of weeks ago, or maybe a month ago, everyone was talking about the viral slap that was heard around the world when Will Smith walked up on the Oscars and slapped Chris Rock across the face. Everybody was talking about this. O'Shea Duke Jackson did a couple of videos on his celebrity junk, or whatever he calls it, talking about this. And he used a statement, all right? And this pissed me off. And what he said was, this is a statement that David Carroll had made. And according to David Carroll, and he put on the TikTok and tried to do his David Carroll impersonation, had the TikTok going in the background, the clock going in the background, and said, the way you know if your woman truly loves you is when she's not willing to sit by and watch you make a fool out of yourself. If she's willing to sit back and watch you make a fool out of yourself, then you know she really doesn't give a damn about you. And he was implying this about Jada Pinkett. Now, listen, I agree that Jada Pinkett does not care about her husband Will Smith. That is a fact. But what pisses me off about that is he credited David Carroll with that statement. Now, David Carroll has used that statement, and I left a comment on O'Shea Duke Jackson's video when he said this, because he was completely wrong. Because anytime David Carroll actually referenced that statement, he always credited the source of where he got it from. And that statement did not originate out of the mouth of David Carroll. That originated out of the mouth of yours truly, none other than the brother of logic and common sense. That's who that came from. And anytime David Carroll would reference that statement, he always gave credit to where credit was due. And he said that this was one of the most profound statements that the most honorable Okwesi 100 would ever mention. Now known, or has been known for many years now, almost a decade, as the brother of logic and common sense. This is a statement that came out of my mouth either sometime back in late 2013 or somewhere in early 2014, before many of y'all even came to YouTube. Now, O'Shea Duke Jackson knows this, and anybody who would reference that statement knows this, because if you heard it come out of his mouth, then he always referenced the source. But you would completely remove the source away to credit a man who is now deceased. And as I told y'all, this is their mindset. Every last one of these Negroes know good and damn well who the hell I am. Many of y'all who were watching me for years before you even made a fucking video. And just as a goddamn example, I believe it was sometime in 2015, maybe 2016, when O'Shea Duke Jackson got into it with David Carroll. And he had a problem with David Carroll because he wanted David Carroll to promote a flyer on his channel about a community cleanup. And David Carroll made it perfectly clear, no, I'm not going to do that. That's not my job. It's your job to clean up your community. Now, regardless of however you felt about that, it is what it is. I'm not here to talk about that. But what I want to reference is when O'Shea Duke Jackson responded to this, he said, you won't promote this flyer as far as cleaning up the black community, but you have no problem making collaboration videos with other YouTubers or with another YouTuber. Who was the YouTuber that he was talking about? Notice he wouldn't reference the name. There was only one person that David Carroll was making collaboration videos with. And that was yours truly, the brother of logic and common sense. As a matter of fact, O'Shea Duke Jackson, when he first came on to YouTube, he sounded very similar to me. When I used to get online, I would say whatever the hell it was that I wanted. Didn't care who I offended. Still don't care who I offended to this day. But I'm not as wild with my mouth as I used to be. And he sounded very similar to me. Would not surprise me if you got a lot of that style from me. But then decided to switch it up when you realized these women were flagging down your channel. But anyhow, I can care less about that. But the fact of the matter is, you know who I am. And I don't appreciate the fact that you would quote a statement that originated from me and not credit the goddamn source. Listen, at the end of the day, if I reference a talking point from somebody else, I'm going to credit the goddamn source. It is just that simple. But this is the mindset that takes place amongst the black manosphere. Now, how I can also substantiate that O'Shea Duke Jackson knows who I am, and every last one of you niggas know good and damn well who the hell I am. Because once the 2 weeks pass and David Carroll has not uploaded a video back in late December last year, every last one of you was sitting at my channel, waiting in anticipation, waiting with bated breath, waiting for me to make a response letting y'all know what this man's whereabouts were. And I'm talking about David Carroll. As a matter of fact, shortly after I posted my first video, O'Shea Duke Jackson reposted it on his community tab. Thank you very much. As a matter of fact, that video got the highest amount of views in that time frame. So if you knew about David Carroll, it lets you know that that was synonymous with me. Y'all know good and damn well who the hell I am. So the fact that you can mention a statement that originated from my mouth and don't even credit the goddamn source is despicable. And this is exactly what I mean when I talk about this damn manosphere. They will not reference other brothers. Many of y'all who have gotten your ideas from brothers who have paved the way, such as myself, Sergeant Willie Pete, Jason Black, Solon Black, Professor Black Truth, Dark One Son, a host, Avenue Ranch. I can name these brothers all damn day who have been on these platforms well before y'all ever came on to YouTube. And rather than y'all crediting the goddamn source or referencing it, you would rather act as if we don't even fucking exist. So when anybody comes to me, and this is exactly what you had with Kevin Samuels, this is the mindset. Y'all all align with the very same mindset. Y'all think exactly alike. And this is why Kevin Samuels had no problem taking off like a bat out of hell on a rocket and leaving you niggas in the goddamn dust the way he did. So when I have some effeminate, lame, milk biscuit Negro showing up to my comment, black community, man, get the fuck out of here with that dumb shit. If you stupid enough to believe that bullshit, I'll sell you a bridge in Brooklyn for a much cheaper price. A real good discount. Y'all accept mediocre fucking results. Y'all accept no real tangible action, nothing that actually benefits you. What you niggas are looking for is to merely be entertained. And that's all you get out of the goddamn manosphere. Nothing that actually empowers your black ass. Nothing that can help take you from the next level or one level to the next. They can't do this. They're incapable of it. And listen, regardless of where y'all think I rank when it comes down to video productions, I actually have content where I'm teaching people a trade. Teaching people about the heating field. Pay for CDL road lessons and showcase this in a video for everybody to see. These are my highest viewed videos. I'm a trades background person. So can you showcase in the manosphere where any of them are showing black men how to pick up a goddamn trade and use it to their advantage? I don't hear them talking about that. All I hear them doing is complaining about goddamn women and being high value men. And these niggas are not of high value. You're just not. You're not. You're cowards. That's what y'all are. Black men shouldn't even get into the talking points of high value. Because if you don't have control over your own economics, then you can't talk about high value. If somebody else can snatch the rug from up under your goddamn feet at the drop of a dime, you can't talk about high value as far as I'm concerned. But you'll hear every last one of these Negroes talk about high value men. Get the hell out of here with that shit. It will let you know that Kevin Samuels didn't have control over his own finances is the fact that he had to kiss up to people like Nicki Minaj. That's not the sign of power, that's a sign of fucking weakness. Let me not piss her off because that can fuck up my goddamn brand. The only thing that Kevin Samuels gave a damn about was making money. Gaining more relevance. Gaining more traction. He didn't want to reference other people, other brothers in the sector, because at the end of the goddamn day, like many of you negroes, you have no problem with being at that pyramid of success by yourself. You don't want to see other black men with you. And this is why it's so easy to wipe your black asses off the face of the map when society says it gets good and damn well ready to get rid of your ass. Which is once again why I toyed with the thought of maybe Kevin Samuels was set up. And y'all won't even see it coming. Anybody who's truly trying to build a black society is not going viral. It's not going mainstream. It's just not going to happen. Because that's not within the benefit of the dominant society. It just isn't. So when you see somebody who has that many views, viral videos left and right, doing shock value, no, this is not somebody who's actually building a black society. That's the guys that he masked the deception under. So that way, because like I told y'all, you Negroes have such low expectations and the bar has been set so low an ant can scratch his fucking back on it. He knows that all he has to do is say, well, you know what? I'm trying to build black America. And that's all that's it. All he has to do is say that and show you no tangibles, no results. Continue doing the same shit he's been doing, and that's good enough for y'all. Because you're too busy looking to be entertained. When a lot of you Negroes want to know why you don't get anywhere, it's because instead of looking for real results, real actions, real tangibles, you're too busy looking to be entertained, looking for a goddamn daddy on YouTube, which is why y'all can look up the Tom Likas. But you'll never find a white guy referring to Kevin Samuels as his dad. Y'all some, man, my God, Jesus Christ. Once again, I've never seen nothing like this in my life. And a lot of you black men wonder why you're not respected. You shouldn't be respected. You wonder why women talk bad upon you. Well, I at some point, I really can't even go against them for saying what they say. And at some point, listen, if you didn't have a dad in your life when you were younger, I get it, I understand it, but once you become a grown fucking adult, that phase is over. You're gonna have to figure this shit out. You're gonna have to man up. And when you're online looking for somebody who doesn't even know you, probably wouldn't even stop to shake your hand if they met you, and look at them as your goddamn daddy, that's a problem. And when you're a black man, furthermore, looking to a white guy and calling him dad, I'm really at a loss of words for that. I can't fuck with nobody who thinks like this. When you're a black man sitting here cheerleading a white man, putting black women in check, disciplining black women because you failed to do so yourself, then you therefore are not somebody who should be taken seriously. You're just not. You're a joke. You're pathetic. The whole damn world knows this. This is why nobody else engages in the very same actions that you do. If you want to know as a black man if what you are doing is actually working and effective, just take a look at other groups of people and see, ask them, are they doing what you're doing? Do they take the same positions that you do? And if they don't, then that should let you know something. This is where I found out a long time ago. There's certain talking points that I needed to change up. I'm not the same brother of logic and common sense I once was back in 2013, 2014, 2015, hell, even 2016. Because there were some things that I seen and I realized this is inconsistent. This doesn't work. So this is what you're dealing with when it comes down to the Manosphere. A group of Negroes who believe that they can build a new black community with white women or non-black women. A group of Negroes who lack territorial instinct to control what goes on in their community. This is why they have no problem putting white guys on pedestals and putting them in authoritative positions in movements that they create, which is another reason why a lot of these Negroes had no problem trying to align themselves with MGTOW, which is a movement created by white men and for white men. And they're trying to bring their black asses along with it because they think they got a safe haven in there. This is why you will find this foolishness taking place. Because you have a conclave of weak-ass Negroes who accept the bare minimum, mediocre fucking results, no real tangibles, and this is why they don't get anywhere. This is another reason why I say if you find yourself listening in to these channels, you're going nowhere. They have a problem with the Pookies and Ray Rays because the Pookies and Ray Rays can get the women that they wish they could have. And they have not gotten over it. And instead of figuring out ways to improve themselves as black men, and to at least at a bare minimum, if you're going to have such a problem with Pookies and Ray Rays, establish a coalition with other like-minded, educated men. Because your education is not what makes you a damn lame. There's plenty of educated brothers out here who are not fucking lames. But you can see these black men don't build amongst one another. You can see these black men are jealous-hearted of other black men, which is, I got to really question because these negroes, they idolize Michael David Carroll. And what they idolize about him is a talking point that he would say all the time. And it's probably his most infamous talking point. 10 times out of 10. Well, if you put a sprawled out, butt naked female in front of me, and you leave me a pack of triple Camacho Maduros, 10 times out of 10, I'm taking those sticks. They love that statement. They love the statement of, yeah, I can take them or leave them. And listen, I don't have a problem with that statement. But I start to wonder why so many of these black men align with that statement. And then you look at some of the Negroes on the Manosphere. You look at what they represent. You look at how they won't give credit and recognition to other brothers here on YouTube. And it leads me to start to really wonder, maybe there's a reason why you align with those talking points. 10 times out of 10, if you had the choice to take those sticks, you're going to take those sticks not because you actually had a choice in the matter. And I'm talking to you Manosphere Negroes. You're taking those sticks because you never had a shot at that sprawled out, butt naked female. Because she took one good look at your ass and said, nah, I want nothing to do with your black ass to begin with. So yeah, 10 times out of 10, the sticks is the only choice that you actually have. But then again, like I said, it leads me to really wonder when I hear them reciting that talking point. And why the Manosphere loves these talking points so much. Why the Manosphere idolizes black men who state that they want nothing to do with women. They just want to be by themselves. And listen, if that's what a man wants to do, I don't have a problem with it. But why does the Manosphere think that that's the way that black men should go? I've told y'all shortly after David Carroll's passing that that's not what y'all should do. If you don't have to do that, then don't do it. Do it if you have to. Know how to be content with yourself if you have to. I'm not knocking anybody who actually lives the lifestyle if that's what they so choose to do. But collectively, black men should not be espousing to take sticks 10 times out of 10. If it comes, let me just go ahead and rephrase that statement, okay? If you have a quality black woman who is worthy of something, who shows that she has equal interest in you as you of her, and you have a pack of double, triple Camacho, whatever the shit, I can't even say the shit, and you have those sticks, then 10 times out of 10, your option should not be those fucking sticks. You take those sticks if you come across a female who is of no quality. But if you come across a quality woman, then 10 times out of 10, I'm taking that woman and not those damn sticks. But black men espouse to these talking points. This is what they inspire to be. They say things that are absolutely to their own detriment of their community. And then do you start to wonder why these very same groups of black men sit back here and mock their own community? Why they are not community-based, why they do not care to build any fucking thing, why they don't give a shit about uplifting younger generations of black men to put them in a better position. They can care less about that. They are jealous-hearted of them. Is it any wonder to you why some of these 50-year-old washed-up Negroes are trying to reach into a pulpit full of 18-year-old females? It's really disgusting when you think about it. Because you should be in a mindset to where I can't relate mentally to you as an 18-year-old. We have nothing in common. We're on two different wavelengths. You're still a child mentally. Even if your body is physically developed, mentally you still are a child. I don't think like you. I don't operate like you. What you expect me to do? Show up and meet up with you and your 18-year-old friends? Let's go to the movies together? Get the fuck out of here. That's not happening. As a man in my 30s, I wouldn't do that shit. So what is that saying when you're looking at men in their late 50s talking reckless shit like this? Is this a group of men that you want to be led by? Is this a group of men that you think are building any fucking thing? No, as I've told y'all, these men are cowards. When you really think about these damn men, you got to question, are these people that you want to follow? Because they have nothing of substance to offer you but sheer entertainment. And that has been one of the biggest problems that have taken place with black men in this sector. Far too many of you, instead of looking to be empowered and informed, are merely looking for entertainment and trying to live vicariously through another goddamn man. And just before I close out this segment, I want to compare Nicki Minaj when Kevin Samuels had that viral video with the average woman at best back in 2020. Notice the amount of heat and vitriol that he had toward that woman. All right? There was a couple of mistakes that she made, but in this case, I'm not going to talk about her mistakes. But he pretty much went in on her based off of her wanting to obtain a high-value man. That's why he went in on her. Now, whether she was qualified for it or not, that's beyond the point. She can want what she wants. What you want and what you're going to get are two totally different things. I don't have to come at you in any kind of way. Life will show you. I will tell you what can go down, but life will show you. But notice how he went in on this female. Said you own a pet grooming business. Just literally downplaying things. And listen, if that's what you want to do, everybody has their opinion on it. But I'm saying he had a level of vitriol toward a female who was not denigrating the image of black women, who was not online trash-mouthing black men, who was not online literally embarrassing black society, but for merely wanting a high-value man. That was enough for Kevin Samuels to go in on that woman. But now Nicki Minaj, who is an architect engineer of the degradation of the image of black women and girls to this day, to the point where they are being portrayed as sex objects, does not hold Nicki Minaj to a higher standard, does not hold her accountable. He is polite with her, he is respectful, he is dancing on eggshells when it comes down to her, because he does not want to piss this individual off. That right there should let you know good and damn well what you were dealing with, and the level of integrity that Kevin Samuels never had. And even though this has been displayed time and time again, it's not Nicki Minaj wasn't the first. There's been endless situations where you can see that this man had no integrity. But yet and still, you black men that follow him, who are looking to be led by your YouTube dad, will cast a blind eye to that. Because as long as you can merely continue to be entertained and living vicariously through another man doing things that you can never do, that's enough for you. That's enough to keep you watching. You don't got to offer nothing. Results don't have to be displayed. Just merely provide me with entertainment and living vicariously. And this is exactly why, at the end of the damn day, a lot of these negroes who come to the Manosphere will never be taken seriously. I lump it up in the same category as that irrelevant, dead black church. In the same way those black churches are coming to a shutdown, which is about damn time, is the same way that black Manosphere needs to come to a shutdown. And with that being stated, that's all I got to say in this video. And I'll catch you on a later production.